Heavysettactical, and today we're going to talk about a knife that I purchased a while back, and it was actually a repurchase. I used to have one and I really wanted one again, and I'm glad I got one because it's the Fallkniven A1. It's the original A1 with the sheath that everybody hates. So this is the Fallkniven A1. It is not the A1 Pro or the A1X. I do have some of the X and Pro models, but this is the A1, and they changed it from VG10 to VG10W, which is actually a slightly better edge retention holding steel from what I've read on the metallurgist pages. Now, there's something that I really like about a convex grind, especially the ones that Fallkniven does. Some people say Fallkniven. I say Fallkniven, it's a little easier for me to remember. I'm just appreciative of their knives, especially for a cold weather knife with this polymer handle here. Now at the end of the video, I'll do some specs and we'll talk about pricing and what, you know, with the injection molded handle and things like that, a little bit more about the info on it. But I'm just going to show you a little bit of basic skills with it today. Alright guys, we have my Fallkniven A1. This is the regular, I think it says like soldier field knife or something. It just says Fallkniven A1 military knife or soldier knife, which it totally could work for. It has a nice through tang that sticks out the end for hammering. It's pretty sturdy. I love the grip on it. You can really get right up on that blade for if you're doing something that you need to tighten up on. Does not have a choil. Fallkniven does not do choils. But I really like this. Just super comfortable knife, especially for winter. So we're going to do a little bit of batoning with it. I'm going to start off with some older, pretty hard oak here, seasoned oak here. We're going to go from there. I just want to see how it splits through wood. Because if I can remember, it splits pretty good. There's a big knot in this piece too, so this will be fun. I want to see how good it can get through there. Man. One thing I remember about Fallkniven knives is that once, and this is really nasty, dried out, really fibrous wood. So one thing about Fallkniven knives is that when you power through that start there, and it reaches that, because of the convex edge, you can have a really good slicer. I mean, look at that edge. You can have a really good slicing edge, but have that thick profile. And the reason they do that with this nice, smooth, convex edge here, this convex grind here, is because once that material passes over the thickness of that belly and hits this flat part here, it just cracks that wood open because it's just wide enough to get a really good split on there. All right. So these things split really well is what I'm trying to say. Right through that knot. And that's a nasty piece of wood. You can hear it. You can hear those fibers pulling apart. That is not something I would like to have to baton a bunch of pieces apart for a fire. So now what we're going to do is I have some more fresh maple here that I just cut down from a sapling. So I want to see how it cuts the smaller, fresh stuff for kindling. Man, so well. What a beautiful piece of wood. Sorry, I'm on a little bit of a slant here, guys. So, when it comes to the rule of thumb with knives, I like to stay within about half the length of the blade for stuff that I'll baton. So maybe an extra ½ inch on this piece and I'd be okay. I really don't like batoning with bigger stuff than that. If I know I'm going to be out and batoning stuff, I'm going to bring a hatchet with me or something, or a bigger blade. But again, a lot of people live by the rule that, you know, as long as your blade can span it, it can baton it, which is technically true. If I had a log that was, you know, 5 inches almost covering that tip, as long as that tip's exposed, I could probably get through it, and you'd be pretty amazed. But But this is really good for breaking down kindling. Really, really good for breaking down kindling for a fire. And I think, sorry, every time I set something down, it's rolling right off this log. But I think what I want to do is look at how well this feather sticks and cuts. So I'm going to bring the camera a little closer and we're going to take a look here. So guys, I want to take 2 seconds. I always talk about it on my videos, and this is the Bahco foldable collapsible saw, BAHCO. They're about $20, and I've been using this thing for a long time. It's a button press for the open. Press the button and then unlock it to shut. Came with a little leather lanyard on it. They're about 20 bucks. I'll have a link in the description for it. This is what I use to cut up stuff that I'm batoning. You can do a lot with it. You can cut some pretty big limbs down with it. And let the convex edge do all the work. You just run it straight down. You can use the belly. You can use back here on the flat point, that part of the knife. And it works out really well. Just really nice curls. I think it's a good little chopper. I like this knife, guys. I'm a big fan. Fallkniven A1. Another thing that I like to do on some of my videos, this has a pretty thick swedge and tip there. If you can see that, it's kind of a funny time of day. The sun's starting to set a little bit. I like to do a tip test. Now this, I'm going to go right off the rip and tell you guys, because of that weld line, and I'll talk about that at the end of the video, because of this weld line where they sandwich those 3 pieces of metal like this, and this is your point, this is your edge here, those 3 pieces of metal come up to this tip. So it's not very hard. I mean, it's hard, but it's not very hard to break that very tight tip off of this knife. But I want to do a tip test just to show you guys, man, this tip is okay. I'm swinging about as hard as I'm comfortable swinging into some dead hard wood, and that tip is not misforming. You know, it's definitely a penetrating tip, which I like a lot. I like to have that on a knife. Okay, so guys, I'm gonna take my Fallkniven A1. Guys, I'm a big fan of the handle. It is gonna sound really goofy. I've handled and had the A1, the A1 Pro, and the A1X. Now, I have the S1X. I really like that Fallkniven. But the A1 Pro, I don't like the metal guard. I really like this polymer handle, and I'm telling you, this is like a woodsman. You know how the SRK is kind of more tactical by Cold Steel, the SRK? This is like a woodsman, more thoughtfully designed woodsman version of the SRK, and I love the SRK handle. I always wished I could take that handle off and put it on a 3V convexed Bark River edge. That's what I always used to say. And then I thought about it, and this thing is precisely that, except for it's not in 3V, it's in, you know, VG10W, which is, you know, not as good of a steel, but that's what a lot of kitchen knives and straight razors and stuff are made out of. It's a very good edge holding knife, but you know, it will chip and roll a little bit with some hard long-term use. But you know what they say, man, we don't buy these knives for them not to break. We buy these knives because we like using them and because they're comfortable and functional and do what we need them to do. And all you have to do is bring stuff along to be able to sharpen it if you are in a survival situation. Have a nice sharpening kit, which I do. Now, I always stress with a lot of guys, part of your responsibility of being a knife owner and knife collector and knife user is having the tools to work on those knives and to maintenance those knives. And that's a big part of, you know, owning a lot of the ones that I do. I'm always, some of the older ones that I have, you know, for more of like grail knives, I'm always pulling them out of the sheaths to make sure they're all right, oiling them, doing whatever I got to do. But I'm going to do one more little batoning demonstration here, because I have really enjoyed batoning with this knife. Now, you know what? We're going to do the old stuff first. Because I don't have a better baton with me. One heavy enough anyway. Sometimes it's annoying trying to baton with something light. Man, see, as soon as you get past that threshold, it cracks it open just wide enough. It's such a good batoner, really. Fallkniven knives are so underrated for batoning. You hear that split, just peels it right open. And part of the physics of it, right, is when you're splitting a piece of wood, what's really good is when you're peeling, when that blade is thick enough to peel that knife, or I'm sorry, when that blade's thick enough to peel that wood apart pretty far, if you look at the actual apex of the edge there, it's not contacting any wood. So people think batoning sometimes is a good edge retention test. I do not, because you can see that the apex is actually right in that triangle of space. As it runs down that piece of wood, you know, you're going to have relief on your edge. But man, what a hell of a knife, guys. I'm a really big fan of the way Fallkniven does their edges and does their convex work. Even with this old funky stuff, I could probably get a feather stick out of this, but man, it is some old rough and tough wood. It's definitely chops pretty good too. I like it. Guys, my last and final test that I like to do on these bush knives is, a lot of you like to know if it can strike a ferro rod. One great thing about the VG10W version, seems to have a little bit better of an edge on it. Now when you feel it and you're using this knife and you have your thumb in different positions, it's not too sharp at all, so it doesn't feel like it would. And I got my 6" by 1/2" bayite. You know, it's a cheapie. It comes with this cool lanyard on it. Does come with a striker, but the striker doesn't really work for, I mean, it does, but you can't get really good sparks with it. So this does. You can really dig in. You can dig in and get great sparks off the spine of this. So yeah, all together, a lot of people like to draw like that. You got your material on this side, stab it in like that, and come right over the top. So the Fallkniven, great fire knife. Fantastic fire knife. John from heavysettactical. This is kind of my end process here to my video. Just wanted to talk about the specs and pricing and where I got this knife, where it's available right now for you to get. This is not sponsored by DLT Trading, but it might as well be, because I pretty much live on DLT Trading. Everything I can't find that's newer is on there, and everything I can't find that's older, because it's older, is on there. So definitely check out DLTtrading.com. They do carry the Fallkniven A1. This is labeled as the Fallkniven A1 Army Survival Knife with Zytel sheath. Now they do it. This was $219 plus tax. They do come with a version that has a leather sheath, but I'm not really big on either one. So I wanted to show you guys this at its basis element, but downstairs I do have a Yellow Hawk Custom Kydex sheath for this. It was a little tight and it kind of fits a little funny, so I actually just ordered a different sheath for this because I love this knife. So we're going to talk about specs real quick. Again, $220 plus tax on DLT Trading. So the specs are, total length is 11 inches exactly. It's 280 millimeters. Now, these are, you know, your Scandinavian knives. These are your, I guess that's a stupid thing to say. These are, I'm trying to think of where Fallkniven is made. Give me 2 seconds just so I can look it up. I actually used to know all this information about them. But so they are produced in Seki, Japan, in their factory. But the designers are Swedish. So it's a Swedish designed Japanese made knife. That's where Japan does get into all the laminated steels. You can see the weld line right there. Right there. So again, it's 3 pieces of steel put together. If this is the apex, it's 3 pieces of steel put together with essentially a harder steel for strength on the inside, and then a softer stainless on the outside for a razor edge and no rusting. So, or I should say, stainless means stainless. So that's that, and the general specs are 11 inches in length, so it's 280 millimeters. The blade length is 6.3 inches, or 160 millimeters. The blade thickness is 6 millimeters, or 0.24 inches. So it is a thick boy. I'm going to show you it next to one that I said it kind of reminds me of. It next to the SRK. It is significantly thicker than the SRK. It's a very, very thick survival-esque knife. But, similar handles, but very much well done and contoured with a flare at the end. Very, very comfortable. Lot more comfortable than the SRK. So, yeah, there's a size comparison with the SRK. Then I have the Reef Knives F6. So, very similar. Maybe 1/8 of an inch on the Reef F6. 11 inches, 6.3, 0.24 inches on the thickness. Almost a full tang with a visible butt cap, end sticking out there for hammering, which is very useful. It is in laminated VG10W, which is a slight upgrade to the original VG10 they used to use. It's holds a good edge, guys. You're not going to be disappointed with this knife. The weight is 305 grams or 12 ounces. So it has a lot more weight than you think it does, but it's very nimble in hand. It's actually like, really, I love this knife, guys. I'm telling you, I'm a huge, huge fan. Just really like everything about it. You can see the contouring and the flared ends there. Just so excellent. Just to put your pinky in there, or if you're going to chop with the 3 fingers. Guys, they really thought this handle out well, and it's not a squishy rubber. It's very, very hard. I'm a huge fan of this handle. I like it more than the Fallkniven A1X, which the A1X that I bought was $400. So naturally, this one is almost half the price. So it is a VG10W, laminated VG10W. The blade hardness is 59 HRC, which from some further testing by a friend of mine, he said that's about spot on. So it's a pretty good hardness, really nice edge. This is what's called a true convex edge, much like a Bark River knife. It's not a full convex. A full convex would start at the spine and round the whole way out. This has a flat part from here to here on either side, flat, and then it starts that nice convexing. And this is a real convex. I mean, it's just super, super well done. You can kind of see it with my fingers in the reflection on there. See, it's like an apple seed or the bottom of a sailboat, very gradual. And what that does is that allows material, like on this with flat grinds, a flat grind here for the edge, flat grind here, flat grind here. That material is passing over and hitting those edges. First the edge around the apex, then the edge around the grind, and then the flat part back here. When this is just nice and smooth, so that material passes around this apex really nicely and just splits wood very well, carves very well. I'm gonna have to do an example of carving with this knife. It's just a great knife. So again, 11 inches, 6.3, 0.24 on the thickness, laminated VG10W, 59 HRC, kind of a cruddy Zytel sheath. It hangs fine, but this is supposed to be a winter knife. Comes right out with a kind of funny belt or a buckle loop there. It hangs fine on the belt. A lot of rattle. And they say that's because since it's a Arctic survival knife, technically winter survival, they have these big slits in the bottom so ice and snow can get out, and you can bang it to kind of crack. If it's frozen in there, you can hit it really, pretty good to kind of, with that rattle, to crack out the knife and get the knife out of your sheath. Because let's be honest, I would not, I take a tight fit Kydex sheath like my Lion Steel T6. I would hate to see this knife frozen in this sheath. I don't even know how I'd get it out unless I started a fire with some boiling water or warmed it in my pants or something. So it does make sense as a functionality thing, but it's, I don't like a lot of rattle on my knife. I just don't. So got a new sheath coming for it, and I'm sure I'll put some further videos out on that. But guys, it strikes a fire steel excellently. It is a great, comfortable, very large blade. You got a lot of room to span something for batoning. And again, I got mine at DLT Trading, so I'll leave some links in the description. I hope you guys enjoyed my video. Don't be afraid to like and subscribe. Just have fun, guys. And like always, stay safe and stay heavy.